Hey, what's going on, guys? Hawks21 here, back with another Splinterlands video. So I teased this video a bit in my last one where I explained why I was switching my fire summoner from Tarsa to Quid Yuff. If you haven't checked that video out, I would suggest going back to see it. There was a lot of good information in that one, and I sort of walked through a lot of my common fire lineups and why I thought Quid Yuff would be a better fit than Tarsa. But I teased that I would start talking about the reward cards, and I mentioned the fire reward cards briefly in my reasoning for Quid, but I want to dig deeper into the reward cards now because I haven't had a chance to do it. Before I get on all that, if you enjoy the content on my channel or if you learn anything new, it would be awesome if you could like and subscribe. It's just a quick and easy way to support the channel, and it means the world to me. I love the Splinterlands community I'm building, both on YouTube and also on Twitter. All right, let's get into it. So Fire brought two new rewards cards. We have the Bloodmaker, which is a common, and the Countess Sinash, which is a legendary monster. We'll start with the Bloodmaker. It's a scattershot range monster, like in a vacuum, okay card. Has like decent speed. So here at Bronze, level 3, you get the 2 range, 4 speed, 4 health. It's a fine, fast archery card. Scattershot adds some, interesting aspects to it. Then you take a look at Silver. It picks up a 3rd archery, which is obviously important. Gold at level 8. I don't love this jump. I'm not a huge fan of Cripple. It matters when you're hitting shield and don't have piercing because you'll do an additional hit to their max health. So that'll take them down a health because you're not actually hitting their health. 3 archery is fine. And at the highest levels, this card becomes more interesting as a standalone to me. For 5 mana, really fast with 6, the 4 attack, the 5 health. This card just like slowly, I think, gets better and better. And then at the highest levels, I think it's really, really viable. 1 is a standalone, but I think it has 2 really important synergies with different summoners, which we'll touch on now. So we're going to go to the market. We will pull up summoners and then fire. We're going to stick in modern. Obviously making it faster with Pyre, huge benefit. Anything that's faster outside of reverse speeds rule sets is important. So bringing that up to 7 speed before any other boosts. We'll have it firing first. We'll make it more difficult to hit. At that point, you're even talking about maybe even some sneak protection at like 7 speed in the back. So yeah, it's not like a direct synergy, but Pyre is pretty helpful like across the board outside of reverse speed rule sets. Tarsa, no real synergy, and I talked about that in my last video. This card's part of the reason why I made the switch to the next summer I'm going to talk about, which is Quid Yuff with the piercing. So that eventually, when I level it all the way up, that 4 archery damage with piercing is going to be amazing. Think about all of the weak backline monsters. People are always bringing protects. People are always bringing repairs. And then specifically with Scattershot, right? If you're hitting a backline monster, you have to get lucky twice if they have shield and have that monster get hit twice by your Scattershot, which is obviously like increasingly unlikely as you put more and more monsters out there. But with the piercing, if the combination of shield and health is below the 4, which Bloodmaker has as the highest levels, or even the 3, right? If you're talking about playing in gold, then you only have to hit it once and it'll wipe it off the board. To me, that's huge. That's really, 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 really massive. And it's part of the reason why I made the switch, because it's these newer cards that I'm getting, and some of these newer cards I think synergize really well with Quid and less so with Tarsa. So I'm really excited about this Scattershot card at the highest levels with Quid. Overall, mediocre as it builds up, but as it gets to the highest level, it really improves. The one caveat is Jotun. This card is a monster with Jotun at every single level. Let's go back to look at the Bloodmaker. You're going to get the boost. So now you're talking 3 archery at bronze. Scatter shot, so it can hit randomly. It can hit the back line. You know, and the blast is going to go everywhere. Same thing here. Any level is going to be 4 archery, blast going everywhere. Specifically at the highest levels. This with Jotun is insane. You're going to have 5 archery, really fast speed. So this card's going to hit for 5 if it hits the back line with its scatter shot and not the last card. But if it hits 2nd through 5th position, it's going to hit that position for 5 with Jotun, do 3 blast damage to the left and 3 blast damage to the right. It's going to be 11 damage on 1 turn. And think about this too. So remember him, 4, 6, 5. All of a sudden, what if you also added in, where is it? Oh, sorry, I always think he's life because the neutrals look so much like life to me, but you wouldn't be able to run this. The Gym Meteor, the highest levels, who also has piercing. So this is also going to get 5. He's going to have 5 speed, also has the scatter shot. So same thing, 5, going to do 11 damage, and he's going to ignore the piercing. So imagine tossing out Gym Meteor and the Bloodmaker. And the Bloodmaker with Jotun at the highest levels. You know, obviously at any level, it's going to be great. But this card's like built for Jotun. And I think becomes increasingly important as we get more Jotun counters. Like in one of my previous videos, little self-plug. In this video where I said the Grandmaster Wraith is the perfect Jotun counter, basically life has this opportunity through the Shield Bearer, 1 having shield, 2 having taunt, and 3 having return fire. I can set it up when I know, and Grandmaster Wraith having amplify. I can set it up when I know Jotun's coming, which is pretty easy to guess. It's just a lot of times you can't do anything about it. You know, when your opponent has Jotun, they tend to play a lot of Jotun, so you can figure it out pretty easily. It's just, do you have the cards to actually counter? But because of the taunt with Shield Bearer and the shield and the return fire and the amplify, I know where the Jotun's going to be shooting, which is going to be at the Shield Bearer. I can then position the Onyx Sentinel, which has return fire, the Alamo Cambio, which have return fire, right behind the Shield Bearer, and both of them are going to toss back amplified return fires back at the opponent. That's devastating for Jotun, right? This card counters that. So Scattershot ignores taunt. So, you know, if you're running a Jotun play and Jotun's your guy, you have a fire focus, you know, or just Jotun's your best summoner, which it probably is if you have it, unless you have Kitty as well. And you see that they run the Shield Bearer Grandmaster Wraith counter, you can still bring Bloodmaker and Gym Meteor with Jotun and at least have a chance at success in ignoring that Shield Bearer and taking out some of the back line before you then have to focus fire on Shield Bearer. So this will provide some counters to some of what's being built to counter Jotun, right? It's sort of a second card you can play with the Scattershot if you go Bloodmaker and Gym Meteor. So yeah, overall, I like this card. I think, you know, me getting Quid's going to make me use this card more than I would have if it had Tarsa, specifically at the highest levels. Any level this card with Jotun is, I think, going to be pretty overpowered and like great addition to the Jotun archery squad. But standalone, I would say pretty mediocre card. It just has a lot of very specific synergies that work well, I think, again, specifically with Quid, and then most specifically, obviously, with Jotun. Okay, let's get into the legendary Countess. I haven't bought this card yet. It's too expensive for me. Again, I'll eventually get these, but I need the price to come down. So let's just take a look again in a vacuum. The camouflage opportunity I like. It's very expensive for 8. So at bronze, you know, at the lowest level, I don't know how much play this is getting. For 8 mana, again, I understand the opportunity and the camouflage is really nice because it can't be targeted. Decently fast, and you know, the camouflage makes up for this low health. Obviously, scatter shot, which we just talked about, and blast damage or return fire can get to the Countess, but you don't really see return fire at the lowest levels. But for 8 mana at the lowest levels, this doesn't bring enough to the table for me. But this used to have life leech before they nerfed it, which would have been insane. Specifically when we talk about Quidyath using life, and it didn't have blast. It had life leech earlier instead of blast later. Can you imagine this card with opportunity, with blast given by Jotun and life leech? So it was just soaking up health every single turn, or through the blast damage, or with the opportunity, right? It's striking with, right now at this highest level. A little off track. But if we used this with Quidyath and it still had life leech instead of like affliction, let's say, it would blast through all armor. The initial attack would go through armor. It would start hitting health, and it would just be soaking up health. But they nerfed it, and I think it was a good nerf. At silver, again, this card gets more interesting. Anything with swiftness, I'm into. Same thing as level 1. Now this starts to become a more playable card for me in a high mana game, right? Can't get to it, opportunity, you're going to take out the little powerful guys in the back, and everyone gets faster. I like that setup. At gold, it picks up the 4th attack, which is meaningful, and it gets the affliction, so I guess if we're talking, if teams set up a taunt play where they bring like a lot of triages or a lot of heals, and for some reason don't bring a cleanse, but now there's a lot more cleanses in the game, so usually people are bringing a cleanse, I can see why this is valuable, right? To me, the affliction here, in general sense, with the opportunity, normally the weakest monsters aren't getting healed. Just like by design, they don't have a ton of health. Opportunity, you're going after the monster with the lowest health unless there's a taunt. So the affliction is kind of a moot point for me, right? Like if you're going after someone who has 2 health, who cares if you afflict it? Does that make sense? Like, to me, it's sort of like counterintuitive to have an opportunity monster with affliction. Obviously, there are cases for it. Equal opportunity. Again, when someone brings a taunt. But for the most part, if you're just using this as an opportunity monster, don't really see the point of affliction. We'll take the 4th archery, but little disappointed in the silver to gold bump. And then finally, the blast. I love it here. Specifically designed to fire at the back line via opportunity. Also blast. So you're just going to be doing a ton of damage across the board. Can't be targeted. Brings swiftness. I don't think blast does affliction. I'd have to test that out, but I don't think so. Affliction's kind of the throwaway for me. This had another ability. I think this previously had life leech. That to me becomes more interesting. It's probably overpowered at that point, which is why they brought in affliction. But yeah, really like this card as a vacuum in standalone. Now let's talk about the summoners. Again, Tarsa brings really nothing to the table. Part of the reason why I switched Tarsa for Quid. Pyre with the additional speed. You could start doing some speed metas, right? Like Fire is pretty slow, so boost from Pyre, boost from the Countess, and you can do the speed boost all the way down at silver. So I see it. It's a good play there. All of a sudden you're talking +2 speed before you do anything else. I like it. Quid, again, part of the reason why I got Quid, having all of this damage, because I'll be playing this at a level 4 once I get it leveled up. having all of this damage to the back line, be able to go through shield, to me is important, right? Like the pierce, I mentioned it in the last one, right? A little bit. The piercing with the blast, the piercing with the opportunity. I think it synergizes really well with this card. It's a card that I wouldn't be super excited to use with Tarsa, but I'm very excited to use with Quid. And then finally, Jotun. So honestly, with Jotun at the highest, before you get to the highest levels, it's insane. So Jotun at gold, if you have a Jotun, it's almost not even worth, it's not worth leveling up, really. If your only fire summoner is Jotun, don't level this up. Save your money on the 5 and stick here, because this card with Jotun is the same exact thing as this card with Jotun. There's no point. You're getting the blast from Jotun, and then here, you're still going to have 5 archery both ways for the archery boost. But let's take it back. With Jotun here, again, insane. Sitting in the back, can't be targeted. Tossing out backline damage with Jotun blast for archery. Same thing here, just now it's faster, right? Jotun archers aren't really that fast. This sort of helps that, some additional speed. Now all of a sudden it's 5, so you're in the same situation as the Bloodmaker, where you're potentially hitting the back line, and you could do 11 damage. 5 initially, 3 to the right, 3 to the left. So really, really powerful card. Here with Jotun, again, no point. It's the same as level 3. And so I think they realized how the blast was actually the last ad, now that I remember. They put in the blast at the end instead of the life leech, I believe. And I think this was because it's a super powerful Jotun card that they were like, okay, let's not make this too over the top of a Jotun card. Let's give it sort of the Jotun equalizer at the highest levels, where, you know, it doesn't keep getting better. Like, you didn't give it a 6th or 5th archery, which then become a 6th with Jotun. You gave it an ability Jotun already had. So, you know, this one sort of synergizes best with Quid, at least at the highest level. But then obviously these 3 levels synergizes really, really, really well with Jotun. Kind of interesting, they brought out 2 new rewards cards that synergizes with one of probably the second most OP summoner in my mind. Yeah, I think an interesting move. 2 very unique cards to me, right? Like, we haven't really seen cards like these 2 before. I really like the Countess. I'm going to play the Countess a lot. I like the Bloodmaker too. I think they're both going to fit into my Quid lineup. And they're why I got Quid, to be honest. They were a big motivating factor, because those are 2 cards I'm going to level up. I'm really trying to level up the new cards. So I wanted summoners that would play in. And I think, you know, obviously Jotun, they're both archers. But specifically with Quid, I think it's an underrated synergy that people with Quid are going to enjoy playing these 2 cards. So yeah. I'm going to go through splinter by splinter, talking about the new reward cards. And at the end, I will probably do a big ranking of them. I'll bring some gameplay videos once, you know, I have them leveled up. For now, I'm sort of just waiting. I want to open up more chests. I want other people to open up more chests and try to sell them so they're so the cards get cheaper and cheaper. You know, eventually I'll pull the trigger, level them up, and give you guys some gameplay footage. But for now, I'm just going to talk about surface level. I'm going to plan on just sort of going in order across. So next video, you can expect the water reward cards. That's all I have for you today. Thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day.